and maybe we'll see what kind of reaction he
all
has.
right. In fact, talking about reactions, Qatar has strongly condemned the Israeli attack targeting Hamas officials in Doha, calling it a cowardly and blatant violation of international law. The Qatar government emphasized that the strike contravenes the established global norms and called for accountability. Officials have confirmed that a high-level investigation is currently underway to assess the full impact of the attack and determine the appropriate response. Matty, what is going to be, according to you, an appropriate response from Qatar?
Well, they can strongly, of course, say that Israel is not allowed to have this kind of actions in another country, but we are in the Middle East again. A lot of things have been going on in the last 2 years since the pogrom that Hamas did on the Israeli society in the 7th of October. Since then, Israel has entered also the so-called sovereign space of Syria or the sovereign space of Lebanon or the soil, and the word sovereign is overrated here. Overrated because if you are using your country to make attacks on another countries, the word sovereign is not a real word that they have
All
to
right.
use
Thank you,
now.
Matty, for
But
joining me, sharing your views. I'm also being joined by Ambassador Basuti Mukherjee. Ambassador Mukherjee, this shocking development that has taken place, the Israeli military has struck Qatar. It says it has struck Qatar. These are, very precise strikes that have been executed to attack the Hamas senior officials. Qatar has called it a blatant fragilation of international rights, international laws. How do you react? Do you think the situation is going to escalate further here on and a massive step back from the progress that has been made so far when it comes to the ceasefire negotiations?
Just from an Israeli perspective, as our guest just pointed out, there were a lot of doubts about Qatar's bona fides as a neutral mediator between Israel and Hamas, because those who are well versed in politics were fully aware of the fact that the Qataris have always played a double role on this matter. That being said, Hamas had earlier accepted the offer of mediation and also of a limited ceasefire and release of hostages. But Netanyahu's government, which for domestic political reasons it appears wants to continue with the hostilities for as long as it can, Netanyahu's government has not been very receptive to this idea because they want to completely eliminate the Hamas leadership. In this particular case, they have taken the extreme step of trying to eliminate them on Qatar soil, which of course is a violation of international law. That being said, as our Israeli guest said, I presume he's from Israel, that in the Middle East, there seems to be a kind of interpretation of international law that is very fluid. We've seen a lot of killing of women and children, unfortunately, in Gaza. Now we are looking at a possible complete evacuation of Gaza as a heavy ground offensive takes place. That would in effect mean that the Gazan residents would find it very difficult to go back. So you're looking at an entirely new scenario in this part of the world. And whether that would result, as I very much fear, in the killing of the remaining Israeli hostages who are in miserable condition, being held in tunnels, being starved. I've seen emaciated images of these hostages. I very much fear that the Israeli ground offensive should not result in the killing of the remaining Israeli hostages.
Yeah.
At the same time, it would appear that the situation is worsening as we speak. These targeted strikes by Israel on Qatar soil means that not only will Qatar withdraw, but it will be difficult to find any Arab negotiator who would be willing to negotiate between Israel and Hamas. The Egyptians have already stepped back. The Qataris will certainly step back, in which case that would leave us only with Jordan. And Jordan has always been very, very hesitant to get involved in mediation of this kind.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, not the most powerful nation when it comes to the Middle Eastern geopolitical scenario that plays out. Obviously, Saudi Arabia and Qatar are amongst the two big, strong nations that can even, boast of hosting these talks and acting as negotiators. And Saudi Arabia definitely doesn't seem like a country that is going to support Israel. In fact, it has condemned Israel on several occasions in the past recent months for the genocide, as it says, Israel has committed on the civilians in Gaza. There's more information coming in. Ambassador Mukherjee, please stay on. The US Embassy in Doha has now issued a shelter-in-place order following reports of missile strikes in the city. The citizens of America are advised to remain indoors and follow safety instructions. Updates and guidance will be shared on the embassy's official social media channels. It comes as local Israeli media says that Trump gave green light for attacks on Hamas leadership in Qatar. That's interesting, Ambassador Mukherjee, because the next question that I was going to ask you is that do you think the Trump administration is going to give strong support to Israel for this strike that it has conducted in Qatar? And as per Israeli leadership, they said that a go-ahead was given by the Trump administration to do exactly that.
Well, the American administration has been very supportive of Israel's efforts to eliminate Hamas completely. So it wouldn't surprise me if they'd given the green signal. On the other hand, they had tried to bring pressure on Netanyahu to accept some kind of a deal which would involve the release of the remaining hostages and a kind of a ceasefire. So this is unconfirmed news, Megha. So I'm hesitant to confirm it on national television right now.
Yeah.
I will need to check the source. But there is no doubt that the Americans, in their own way, did try to pressure the Israelis so that the hostages could be released and some kind of limited ceasefire could take place so that the daily killing of women and children, which is causing a lot of pressure on the Trump administration, even within the United States, would ease. That is not going to do so if there's going to be a full-scale genocide and complete evacuation of the population of Gaza by heavy Israeli ground attacks, as they have warned and told the Gazan residents to leave immediately because their ground offensive is imminent. So it's a very tricky situation right now as we speak.
All right, stay on with me, Ambassador Mukherjee. We'll shift our focus to the other big development that is taking place. Disturbance